Hey, to whoever may need this nugget of encouragement, things will be all right.
Hey, Book Dragons. It is your girl, Lindsay, here with the Spine Bookcast, Chronicles of a Bookshop. Thank you for tuning in to our episode. You guys might actually recognize our guest this week. His name is Kevin Basile. And if you saw the interview on Channel 5 with Elizabeth Cook, who we had in a couple episodes earlier, this is the other lovely author. Say hi, Kevin.
Hello, everybody.
So Kevin is one of our newest authors, and he hasn't quite gotten his books in there yet, but he's going to. What's going on with that?
Dealing with Amazon.
That tracks.
What I'm thinking about doing is just buying them outright and just having them shipped to me and then recouping the loss later.
Yeah. Well, we can figure something out with that. So what got you into reading? Like, what was your first memory of reading?
Oh, good Lord. Having older brothers and sisters that were 9+ years older than me, they were always off doing whatever they were wanting to do. So you get left behind. Mm-hmm. And my mom loved to read.
Right. So
I just naturally, it's like, okay, well, she started me off with, the basic kids books. And
sure.
By the time I was 8, I was reading Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And I was reading, I think at the age of 9, this is the first time I read Lord of the Rings.
Oh my gosh, so good.
So I had, and it was just, that was my escape from, reality. Mm-hmm. I would much rather live in the Shire than where I live. So.
I mean.
Or even. I read a vast variety of genres.
Sure.
I don't just stick to just either sci-fi or fantasy.
Right.
I love historical novels.
Sure.
I do. I tend to stay away from romance unless it's like historical and there's something in it that's pertinent.
Right.
But for the most part, nothing is off limits to me. I love to read.
Usually if it doesn't snag me within the first couple chapters, I end up DNFing it because it was like, I need you to get my attention and make me want to care about the people that are in the book.
Yes. And it's a lot of newer authors just don't really understand that. Mm-hmm. It's like your target audience anymore today. Mm-hmm. It's nobody wants to read a 500-page book if it's not going to
get you
in and hold them
exactly
through the book. Because if you lose them, you could be great at the beginning and halfway through, they're like, why am I reading this again?
Yeah.
And, but it has to constantly pique your interest. It's like, what is around that corner?
Sure.
Who is the monster? Because a lot of times, even well-known authors have kind of lessened in intensity with a lot of their books. They're just now drawing off a name.
Yeah. No, I absolutely. What was your favorite book as a kid? Like the one that you will die on that hill, great kids book.
Now it's going to be weird as I am a diehard Tolkien fan, but it's not The Hobbit and it's not The Lord of the Rings.
Right.
It's The Silmarillion.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because it's the precursor to everything and explains everything else.
Yeah, I've read that one time.
And it's like, and knowing that he never finished the book, that his son finished it for him, and it was like, okay, that means even more because now his son is carrying that legacy.
Exactly.
And it's like, I know where my dad was going because I have his notes.
Yeah.
The only other one that would probably rival and this is going to sound weird, and a lot of people don't really know about it unless you really know the Narnia series.
Sure.
Is The Magician's Nephew.
Mm-hmm.
Because that sets the tone for everything.
And I love that in the last rendition of movies where they did the line "The Witch in the Wardrobe," if you've seen them, the very last clip has got the old man winking at the wardrobe kind of thing. And it's like, if you've read the books, you know who that guy is.
Yes. Well, the line that he goes, "You won't get back through there. I've tried."
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a second.
What? Yeah.
Because, and again, if you don't know the history of what's going on, you'll completely miss it.
Yeah. And if you don't know that and you hit that line, it's kind of like a, wait, what?
Yeah. When we first saw it, we were living in Houston, and we went with a couple of friends of ours, and they're like, hey, they got a new Narnia movie. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I caught that, and I'm like, yeah. They just looked at me and went, what? I go, you don't know who that is?
Yeah.
And they're like, no. I go, have you read the books?
No.
Well, yeah, I've read, the first 3. And I'm like,
have you?
Which first 3?
Yeah.
He goes, well, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I go, that's not the first book.
That's not the first book.
The first book is The Magician's Nephew.
Exactly.
And if you read them out of order, you'll get lost in
Oh, it doesn't make any sense.
No. It's like reading The Desolation of Smog before you read, anything else. And
you've got to read all of them in the right order, or else it doesn't make sense. And it's such a beautiful story.
Yes. And that's the whole thing. As I love books that not only tell a really awesome story,
right,
but give you a background on why these characters got where they're at.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I always tell people, I can get behind a villain if you give me a reason why he's a villain. If it's just that he's crazy and he's hateful and just wants the world to burn, but why though?
Yeah.
Like, so in the new TV series, and do not come for me, I'm just telling y'all right now, but my best friend Jessica and I absolutely loathe that entire show, with the exception of the newspaper boss, who I actually met, the guy that plays him, and he is amazing, and Vincent D'Onofrio, because he plays the bad guy, right? And he kills somebody with a car door. I mean, he's like the ultimate bad guy. And you kind of are just like, oh my gosh, he's so evil. But then there's this one scene where he wants this painting back. And the guys haven't, his henchmen haven't been able to get to it. And he's just had enough. And he's like, if you just want something, you just need to do it yourself. And you fully expect there to just be mass bloodshed over this painting, right? Well, gets to the woman's house that has it and finds out that she's a Holocaust victim and that her father painted this picture. And for him, that's a line in the sand. I will beat you to death with my car door, but you've already been through enough. So you know what? Just keep it. It's totally fine. That's a line in the sand for even me. And he may be a bad guy, but he at least had a code of ethics, and there was a reason why he was doing what he was doing. Yeah. And, there was a line even he was not willing to cross, which is what made Jessica, okay, I can get behind that. Yeah. I can get behind the bad guy.
Yeah.
I like character development, and there wasn't a whole lot with Matt Murdock, and it just, he was whiny. So I like a great story. It's a great story, but I think that if you don't have character development, then it takes away from what could be a great story.
Well, Vincent D'Onofrio's take on Kingpin was brilliant.
It really was.
I despise Daredevil, the TV show. I despise it. I don't like none of those four.
None.
That were done.
None. It's one of the reasons that we didn't watch The Punisher, even though I love John Bernthal. I'm sorry if I didn't say it right, but y'all know who I'm talking about. I love him, but I didn't want to watch Punisher because it has a lot of Matt Murdock in it. I was like, I just can't.
He doesn't play a decent Punisher.
Does he not?
No, he doesn't.
Oh, I hate that because I like him.
They were Iron Fist, Daredevil, Jessica Jones.
I love Jessica Jones. I thought that
Cage,
was great.
They were all watered down versions of who they really are.
See, now I love Jessica Jones because it had David Tennant in it, and I like the actress Kristen Ritter, and I thought she did a really good job.
She did a really great job in the rendition of it, but they watered down her powers.
I heard that.
And it's like, no. You know me,
I'm a purist. If you're going to do a book, do the book.
Yes. And it's like you were talking about villains. One of my favorite villains of all time, because I know his backstory and what made him there, is the Joker.
Oh, yeah. He's such a good villain.
Because he was a petty thief that got messed over. And then he was the original Red Hood.
Oh, yeah.
And being chased by an early Batman, and he fell off and got disfigured and everything.
Right.
That's not what triggered his insanity.
Right.
His insanity was triggered by the mob that messed him over.
Exactly.
And everything.
And if you don't know that, he just is evil for no reason.
Right. And a lot of people, now y'all can check this out because this is phenomenal. There's a entity in DC Comics called the Mobius chair.
I think I've heard of it.
And it's basically you sit in the chair and you can ask the chair anything and it will give you the answer for everything. Well, the one thing Batman never knew was the Joker's real identity, who his real name was. And he asked, who is the Joker? And the chair answered, which one? There are 3.
I get goosebumps. I just think that's amazing.
And if you go back and look at the comics, there are 3 different renditions of the Joker, and everybody thought, well, he's just changing his look.
Nope.
No, there are 3 different separate Jokers, and the only one that was the original Red Hood is the white, thin psychopath.
Yeah.
You know.
So what actor out of all the renditions that have been done of that particular character, which one do you think has been the best? Because you've got like back in the 60s with I can't think of
Cesar Romero.
Thank you. And then you've got like Heath Ledger and Jack Nicholson and Jared Leto. We've got tons of them.
Here's the thing. Okay, now if you really look at it, Jack Nicholson played the gangster version of Joker perfect.
Oh, absolutely.
Jared Leto played the crime mob boss perfectly.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But the comic book one that people know and love, it's Heath Ledger all the way.
Oh, my God. That was absolutely a masterful performance.
Because in all 3 of the movies, you have all 3 of the Jokers represented. And it's like, so it's kind of hard to go, well, which one is your favorite?
Yeah, it depends on which one you're playing.
Right. Now, if I had to choose between the 3 or the 4, it would be Ledger, Leto, Nicholson, and then Romero. Because Romero was the campy. And it was the whole show was campy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but again, I grew up in that era.
I watched all those.
Yeah, I still go back and watch it once in a while. And it's the same thing with, if you look at Lex Luthor. Why does he hate Superman?
Yeah, Superman is my favorite. Everybody hates that, but I'm like, Superman is my dude.
Why does Lex Luthor hate Superman?
Because he has everything that Lex Luthor wants and can't have.
That's not it.
Okay, what is it?
Lex Luthor and Superboy were best friends.
No, see, I knew that, and they did that in Smallville. They had them be friends in Smallville.
And there was some kind of weird smoke coming out of Lex's lab, and Superboy did not know that Lex was in there, thought it was on fire, and blew the smoke back in the lab, causing Lex to lose his hair.
I didn't know
that is what happened in the comics.
See, I didn't know that because I've read a lot of the Superman comics, but I don't think that I've gone that far back.
It's in the Adventures of Superboy.
Okay.
And this is the weird thing about it is what Lex was working on was an antidote to Superboy's kryptonite problem.
Nice.
And because he was thinking that, oh, you're just jealous of my intellect. That's why you did this. So now we're enemies.
I really love when you read about the whole hero anti-hero dynamic, and it's always and they decide to do the they were friends before they became enemies thing, because I just think it's such an interesting dynamic.
Yep.
And there's so much room to play with.
Oh, yeah. Michael Rosenbaum, who played Lex in Smallville, was one of the best renditions of Luthor I've ever seen in my life.
Absolutely.
And I think the only one that could ever rival him is the one that played Lex on Supergirl.
Hang on. I know who that is. Oh, what is his name?
I cannot think of his name.
I know exactly who you're talking about. I can't
because he played on 3.5 Men.
Oh, John Cryer. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, he did a good job.
And he did a phenomenal job of that Lex. And it's like, I can get behind both of these.
Yeah.
And so, but even with, and this is what I despise, and y'all can come for me because I don't care. In Superman and Lois, they changed Luthor.
Who played Luthor? I can't remember.
I don't know, but it's not John Cryer.
Yeah.
Which is a screw up because Superman and Supergirl are cousins in the same universe.
Yep.
So it should have been the same Lex.
No, I agree. That makes sense.
And it's just like, y'all screwed up royally here. You just erased everything.
Well, see, now Doctor Who did that with their 40th or 50th anniversary.
But they explained it.
Yeah, with the War Doctor, with John Hurt coming in. And the fans like me who have watched every single episode of the entire show ever are sitting here watching it. And when you first start to get an inkling of what they're getting ready to do to the history, it was like, oh,
yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Because they literally were like, all the history is gone. We're going to rewrite the whole thing.
Yeah.
And go.
Which is fine if you explain why you're doing it.
Right, exactly.
But if you just, we're just going to change a character.
No, I thought they did it absolutely brilliantly because they were like, so I know you guys know all this lore, but we're going to wipe that off the map. And here's why.
Yeah. Well,
and I just thought that was so fantastic.
DC Comics did it 5 times.
And I love when they do that. Like Supernatural does the same thing. That character's not really dead. Give it 2 episodes. They'll find a way to resurrect him. It's fine. Except they didn't do that with Crowley, and it pissed me off so bad.
Yeah, but they explained why Crowley couldn't come back.
Right. Well, so Mark Shepard, who played Crowley, when they killed him off in the show, sorry for spoilers, but when they killed him off in the show, all of us fans were like, yeah, no, right. Crowley's coming back, no problem. And then he actually had to come out and tell people, no, I'm really not coming back. That was it.
Yeah, his debt was paid. Yeah, and it was like, crap.
Dang it. He was one of the best reasons to watch that show.
Yeah, because, again, I don't care if you come for me. I didn't really care for Sam or Dean.
Oh, my God.
They were integral characters.
There's a whole group of people that are going to come for you for that.
They're overhyped because they had way too much help in everything they did. Yes, they were masterful hunters. I will not take that away from them.
And that's funny that you say that because the woman in the last couple seasons who played one of the Reapers, and then she ended up being the biggest, like the head of the Reaper, Death. She had that same complaint. She's like, why is everybody else helping you guys? Y'all mess things up all the time. And so she had that same complaint on several episodes where they, and then towards, I want to say it was either this last season or the season before the last season, she ended up taking over and becoming the Death, right? And she said something that was like, now that I'm at the top, I see all kinds of stuff that I never had access to that explains everything.
Yeah.
But she wouldn't tell him what it was.
Well, she's not allowed.
Right. But it was just really interesting that they bring up that same dynamic that you do, that all these people are helping them, but there's a reason why.
Right. And
character depth.
Yeah. And like I said, I take nothing away from the characters. They were doing what they were called to do.
Right.
But they were massively overhyped. They weren't the ones that succeeded.
They were chuckleheads.
Yes, they were just the the sacrificial lambs while everybody else is doing the heavy lifting.
They got thrown under the bus all the time for that.
And I think they should have really hyped up a lot more of the other characters as well, because they were an integral part of the entire series.
Oh, absolutely. Do you have a book series that you want to be made into a movie that hasn't been made into a movie or TV show?
Incarnations of Immortality by Piers Anthony.
I don't think I've read
I would
that.
love to see this. It's an 8-book series.
Okay.
And it starts off with On a Pale Horse.
Okay, now I've heard of that, but I don't think that I've read it.
It's about the office of death.
Okay, I'm going to have to write that down. I'm going to have my little notebook. Everybody that knows me knows I have little notebooks everywhere. On a Pale Horse.
Yes, it's book 1. And it's about this man named Zane.
Okay.
And he's a
Piers Anthony?
Piers Anthony.
Okay.
And the series is called Incarnations of Immortality.
Okay. Incarnation. I can't spell anymore without sounding it out. Of Immortality. Got it. Okay.
And he's a complete and total loser at everything he does, but he has a talent that he can take photos, and it not only shows your aura, but it removes your clothes and it's a byproduct of what he does, and it's the way it shows the aura. Okay. And the only way he can make any money is by selling the nudes. But he comes across a shopkeeper that says, look, if you give me, because he holds a stone that's a one true love stone.
Okay.
And he's like, and it's activated, and he goes, your one true love's in the area. He goes, but if you give me your one true love, I will give you this wealth stone.
So he has to choose love or wealth.
Yes, but he's cheated because it's not a wealth stone. It's a junk stone that finds pennies, nickels, and that's it.
So it's okay.
So it was a scam. The shop owner finds one true love, goes off and everything. And this is all in the first chapter.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. So you see where it's already.
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, I'm just going to shoot myself. And Death walks in the door. And Zane freaks out and shoots Death and kills him.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So now Zane has to take over the office of Death.
Have you read The Midnight Library?
That sounds familiar.
It's by Matt Haig. And it was the first book by Matt Haig that I ever read. And when I first started it, I remember thinking, I don't think I'm going to like this book. Because everybody loves the book. And so I was like, okay, I want to read it. As a bookshop owner, I should read, why not? And it's about this girl who is depressed and very unhappy. So, right in about the first 4 pages, she kills herself. Right out of the gate. So you're kind of sitting here going, well, shit, this book is depressing. But she doesn't die. She wakes up in the Midnight Library.
Right.
And somebody tells her, yeah, we put a hold on that. If you're so unhappy with your life, let's look at your other choices that you could have made. Pick something. And so her library is every decision she did or did not make.
Wow.
And all she has to do is pick one up and decide she wants to try it. I didn't marry this person. What would my life have been like had I married this person? I didn't go to Australia with my friend. What would my life have been like if I had moved to Australia? I didn't do this. And so she goes through, and she has the option to come out of it if it turns into a shit show, which most of them do.
Right.
And you get towards the ending and you think, are y'all going to do the thing where it's the everything's happy and wonderful ending, which would have really made me mad because that's not the tone of the book. And I was so invested by the time you get done and seeing all these, and she's learning about herself as she's going through these, So again, character growth, right? And she's figuring things out about living and life and how things actually work. So when you get to the end and what inevitably happens, I won't spoil it, I promise, happens, I was so thrilled that was the choice that she made.
Yep.
And it was just like, that's the proper, and it has become one of my favorite books, and I recommend it all the time because it is beautiful story.
Search it and find it and look at it.
It's so good.
Well, the interesting about this series is that each book overlaps with the other book.
As it should if it's a series.
And I haven't read book 8 because I didn't know book 8 existed.
I can look for it today if you want me to. I'm going out on a book hunt.
But it starts with on a pale horse, and then it goes bearing an hourglass, which is on the office of Kronos.
I feel like I've seen this series somewhere.
Then it goes with a tangled skein, which is the office of the three ladies of fate.
Man, I'm going to have to go pick up this series because that's all the stuff that I like to read.
Wielding a red sword, which is in the office of war.
Okay.
Being a green mother, which is all about Gaia, Mother Nature.
Sure.
Then it goes, there's I don't remember the name of the book, but it's about the office of Satan.
Nice.
And then And Eternity, which is the office of God.
Okay.
And then the final book was based on Nox, who is the mother of night.
That's right. Okay.
And each book, and the way that Piers Anthony, because he's agnostic, he's like, I don't know if God exists, I don't know if hell exists, I don't care.
Yeah.
But the way he explains each of the characters is that they're human forced into this office. And they've always been human forced into this office.
So they're not supernatural characters. They started out as humans.
Yes.
Yes.
And
that's a super awesome twist.
With death, Zane, he's got compassion. And he's learning how to reap souls.
Yeah.
And he's learning he has these gems that when he puts them together, they light up, and whether it's bright or dark decides whether you go up or down.
Oh.
So he just ferries. And
that is so cool.
And if they both hit, well, he escorts them to purgatory until they figure it out, and his job is done.
Oh, wow.
So,
see, that sounds like a really good series. I would watch that.
And he's got what's interesting, he has a horse in here.
Nice, okay.
That's a supernatural entity.
Sure.
That can go into a helicopter or a boat or a plane as needed to where he has to be.
Okay.
So,
like a familiar.
Kind of, but it's his transportation mode. It's like there was somebody drowning in the ocean. Horse can't go across water, so the horse becomes boat, and they go out to reap the soul.
Oh, nice.
And it's like that.
Okay.
But when Zane, after he shoots death, Fate steps in, which he meets later, and she's like, well, you've really screwed things up, haven't you? And she's not talking to Zane.
Talking to the horse?
No, talking to the guy that was death.
Oh, wow.
He goes, you have gotten really sloppy over the last couple of years. This serves you right.
Yeah.
And he looks at him and goes, grab the gloves. Grab the coat, grab the boots.
Awesome.
And he's like, why? He goes, well, you're now deaf.
Yeah.
Dummy. And she's hot because he screws up, and now I have to train you.
Yeah. Now you've become a problem I have to deal with. Right.
And she's like, and he's like, well, who in the heck are you? She goes, I'm Fate. And you've just messed up my entire timeline. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow.
So
see, okay, that reminds me a little bit. What's that series that Jess loves it, and she's gonna kill me because I can't remember. But it's got the guy who's a magician, and it's modern times, and it is she's gonna kill me. I'm gonna get a text message. I can't remember, but he ends up screwing a bunch of stuff up. And they tried to do a TV show with it, and it didn't quite work, even though I really like the actor that played it. What book series have they done, or book have they done into a film or TV adaptation that you despised?
Holy crap.
I ask because the Cassandra Clare series, the Clockwork Angel series, or the City of Bones series, the movie sucked and the TV show sucked, but the books are amazing.
The Divergent series.
Yeah, I was kind of pissed about that series too.
I've read Allegiant, and it was like, where was this? Half of
Have you read the ending of the series?
No, I have not.
I threw the book across the room and immediately sold them. I was so angry because what she does at the end of the series was lazy.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just, you spent all this time writing all this amazing stuff. And now you're going to do this to this character, which did you?
Well,
I was so mad.
It's nothing new. And for the older crowd that are listening, the TV show Dallas screwed up an entire year by having a dream. And that ticked off millions of fans.
Well, so they did that. They also did, what did they do that with? Was it St. Elsewhere? Where the series finale, they zoomed out of the hospital and you realized the hospital was in a snow globe that a kid was playing with.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Oh, yeah. And it's just like, really?
Same thing with Lost. The Lost ending made
we don't talk about Lost. All right? Because that last season's
I heard
everybody off.
Oh, I've heard that.
Because when they had the invisible monster, you're like, yes, oh, this is going to get good. And then when it comes down and it's one dude, really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right.
I always hate it when I go to read a book or I go to watch a movie and it's supposed to, everybody's like, oh, it has this amazing plot twist. You're just going to die. And then 5 minutes in, I'm like, oh, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Shutter Island. I knew 5 minutes into the book what was happening. I didn't even have and I was just like, this could have been so cool. This is such a trope.
Yep.
And I hate that.
And that's the thing. You know, you mentioned Superman earlier, and he's always been in my top 3. Mm-hmm. Always. But there's a reason why I am a huge Superman fan.
Okay, see, nobody else in this house is a Superman fan. Some people choose Batman.
The creators, Jerry Siegel and Joel Shuster, were Messianic Jews.
Okay.
They were Christ-following Jews.
I didn't know that.
And they modeled Superman after Jesus.
Huh.
Think of it, and here's how, and there's a book out called The Gospel According to the World's Greatest Superhero that explains all of this.
I can see that.
And I'll give it to you in a nutshell.
Okay.
His name is Kal-El.
Yeah.
Kal of the house of El.
Uh-huh.
El is Aramaic for God.
Shut up. Oh my God. That makes me appreciate Superman so much more now.
Think about Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Lucifer.
Yeah. Well, okay. I have always loved Superman.
Yes.
Christopher Reeve, will always be in my heart.
Best Superman ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say this, but I've always said that I thought it was really funny that in every iteration of Superman in the movies and stuff, you've never seen him question if what he was doing was helping humanity or doing more harm to humanity. I've never seen
Superman 4.
Well,
he does.
When we went to go see Man of Steel, and he's having the conversation with his mom. Don't start with me because everybody knows how I feel about Henry Cavill.
I love Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
But I refused to see the movie for so long because I heard he kills somebody in the movie, and I'm like, Superman doesn't kill.
Well,
and then I had to go back and go, wait a minute, yes, he does.
The reason he does it is that whole scene is so beautifully done. I cry every time. It's so good. But he has that conversation with, it's either Lois Lane or his mom. I can't remember who it is, where he says that he always wondered if his ability to do these things and help humanity was doing more harm than good. And I'd never heard that in a movie ever about Superman. And I just immediately, for me, clinched it. And so I saw an interview with Henry Cavill later when he was doing the movies, and he had the exact same thought and was like,
yeah,
somebody else gets that.
Yeah, and that's just it. I love Henry Cavill's rendition of Superman.
Me too. I thought it was brilliant.
He's number 2 on my list.
Absolutely.
But the way that he brought not just the, I'm this all-powerful God-like being, but he brought a humanity that is rarely brought into Superman outside of the comics.
I think it was I think there was a humility to it as well.
Yes. And the only other one that I would say my number 3 for playing the character would be, and there goes the name.
Don't say Brandon Routh. Okay, thank God. Y'all should just see his face. That's the same face I have every time.
Oh my God.
Henry Cavill, Dean Cain, Tom Welling.
Tom Welling. He's number 3.
He did such a good job.
And because he developed Clark before he developed Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And
I thought he did a masterful job.
And when they did Crisis on Infinite Earth on the thing, and they gave closure to all of us Smallville fans, like, well, I gave up my powers, and he threw the kryptonite, and you're like, yes.
Yes, I totally love that.
And, but it gave closure to a lot of people, because a lot of people don't realize that they, brought closure to a lot of series that we loved.
Oh yeah. CW, I think, has about a 10-year run, maybe 20 years if you want to go all the way back to Buffy. When it was not CW, it was WB or whatever. Yeah. But you have stuff like Buffy and Angel and The Dollhouse and Firefly and Supernatural and Arrow and The Flash, TV show, not the movie, Birds of Prey. Like, there's a whole 2 decades of stuff that particular WB/CW did in the superhero, supernatural, character-driven, episodic run of stuff that is literally my childhood.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned The Flash.
Not the movie.
No. I enjoyed the movie. Don't get me wrong, because it was a take on an alternate universe.
I had a problem with the movie because of all the stuff that came out about
Ezra Miller.
And I just...
You know what? I decided to overlook that. And it wasn't his character that I enjoyed. Yeah. It was the way they did the movie, the alternate timeline. You know what? I can get behind that.
The only reason I went to go watch that movie was Michael Keaton. Let's just be honest.
Okay. Yeah, I have to admit that was phenomenal, seeing him put the cowl back on.
I could have given 2 craps about Ezra Miller to see him go, let's go nuts.
But you mentioned the Flash TV series.
Yeah.
The guy that plays Barry's dad, John Wesley Shipp.
He was the original Flash.
The original Flash.
I was so excited when I saw that.
He put the cowl back on during Crisis.
Goosebumps.
Yes, I'm just like, and I gave out a schoolgirl scream, and my wife just looked at me and went, "What?" And I'm like,
you don't understand.
I go, you don't get it because you're not a comic nerd.
Yeah.
And she goes,
you don't get
what?
It.
I go, that's the original Flash from the 90s.
That's the guy, yeah.
And she's like, wait a second. And she goes, I go, he's older, but that's him.
Yeah.
And she's like, I get it now. And I'm like, yes.
See, that's how I was about Tron. So, our generation, we had Star Wars, Star Trek, and I had Tron.
Right.
And I love that movie. I loved that movie my entire life. And Jeff Bridges, it started me on my love of Jeff Bridges. So when I heard they were doing the second movie, I thought, oh, God. And then I went to go see the movie with my husband. And I remember thinking, as the credits are starting, please don't ruin my childhood. Please don't ruin my childhood. Please don't ruin my childhood. You've messed up Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You've messed up Transformers. Please don't do this to my childhood. This is the last vestige of... And The minute that you see Jeff Bridges, it was just like, you know, my inner 10-year-old, oh my God.
Yep.
And then he's getting ready to come back for the third one. And my friend said it to me, and the squeal that came out. So I get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That fangirling.
Seeing beloved characters, because, again, in that episode of Crisis, the 5-episode show.
Because it arced over, it was The Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, and Smallville?
Not Smallville.
What was the other one?
Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And they brought
also brilliant.
They brought Burt Ward, who was the original Robin from the TV series back, and he's wearing the red with the yellow and green.
I really loved that they brought in the very first season of the Guardians or the Legends of whatever.
Tomorrow.
They brought the guy from Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what happened after he died on Doctor Who. He became a Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah. And, you know, the whole Legends thing, the way they did it was brilliant.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and with Kid Flash from The Flash joining the Legends.
Yep.
Becoming a better...
So good.
Yeah, it was like, okay, I can get behind it.
Yeah. It feels to me like when they do shows like that they go, find me the nerdiest person on the planet. We're going to throw like billions of dollars at him, write a TV show on any comic that you want. And then fangirls like us are, ooh.
Yeah. But here's the thing. A lot of, like, okay, Stargirl.
I did not watch that. I heard that it was awful.
The girl doesn't fit the character.
That's what I heard.
If you don't have the right actor or actress playing...
that's my whole problem with the City of Bones series and the Cassandra Clare is... I discussed this, I think, with Dan, where I was talking, some people, when they read books, it plays out like a film in your head.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I'm reading a description of a character, it mentally builds it in my head. That's what he looks like.
Yes.
And then you go to watch the movie or the TV show, and it's very much the, what?
Yeah.
Did you read the description?
Yeah. One of my favorite series is, and this is going to be a little, it's really weird because it's not what normal people read.
But what's really normal? Let's just be honest.
True. The woman's name is Joanne Fluke, the author. And she has a character named Hannah Swenson.
What series does she write?
She does the Murder She Bakes series.
Yes. I have one of those in my car right now.
In the book, you visualize this tall, red-headed, kind of plump woman, and then they made the movies, and Allison Sweeney is blonde and thin. The girl that was on The Biggest Loser, the host.
Yeah, but... What?
Yeah. I'm like, Hannah's not blonde.
That's kind of Doctor Who has had a running redhead joke from episode 1. There's been a running gag about how he always wants to be a ginger. He's never been a ginger. I'm like, come on. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
That you know what they should look like, and they don't look like that.
Well, especially if the author describes the character, and that's what you're going with.
Well, in Fleming with James Bond, Sean Connery. Right out of the gate. Dr. No.
Yes.
The minute Sean Connery walks into the screen, it was like he literally walked out of the book because he looked exactly like. So this whole concept, and no offense to Daniel Craig. I love Daniel Craig. However, James Bond is described in Fleming's books as tall.
Not all of them.
Really?
Yes. Because
I read them all, but it's been
007 is not a man.
Right.
It's an office.
Right.
And other people have held the office. And what a lot of people don't realize is Sean Connery isn't the first Bond.
Right. But For me.
Yeah.
And
don't get me wrong, I love Sean.
Oh, yeah.
He was the best Bond ever.
Yes. But he looks exactly like what M. Fleming, like if you read Dr. No and you read and then you look at Sean Connery, you just kind of mad. Well, there he is.
Yeah.
And people got so mad in that movie when he killed the guy in the hooker's hotel. That was and everybody got mad because he killed somebody. And I just kind of want to.
He's a spy.
He's an assassin.
He
is supposed to sleep with as many women as possible, get all the kind of information he needs, and shoot people.
Right.
That's what. Did you read the book? Which comes out of my mouth more often than it probably should.
And that's the thing. A lot of people don't realize that 90% of the movies that are out there are based on somebody's short novel or a book or something.
See, that's what Dan and I were talking, because I strongly feel, Netflix, if you are listening, they need to make his Leaving Earth series. It would be a masterpiece.
Oh yeah.
3 season arc or 3 movie, because it is so flippin' good and the story is just told so well. But Dane has mentioned that he would kind of be nervous about it, because what if they change things, or what if they made, and if that's when you have to get that in your contract, that you get all decisions made.
Yes, and a lot of authors have done that.
Yeah.
Tolkien's family has total autonomy over their books.
Maggie Stiefvater, so I have the tattooed wolf on my left shoulder from her wolf series. And it's one of my favorite series by her. It's the first series I ever read by her. And then my other friend, Krista, has got the Raven from the Raven Boys.
Right.
And both of our tattoos, Maggie Stiefvater actually drew herself. And we printed out the image, and then we were like, this is what we want. Because we met at a Maggie Stiefvater book signing.
Right.
And so I asked Maggie, I said, are you ever going to turn the Wolf series? Linger, I believe is the first one. I have to look again, but it's 3 or 4 books. And I asked her, I said, are you ever going to turn these into a movie? Because it would be really good. And she said that a company did, but they wanted to kill off one of the main characters and bring in this new character and make him a villain, and then take one of the good characters and make them the villain. And I was like, that's not the book. And she said, that's why I didn't let them do it. And I was like, oh my God, thank you so much.
Yeah. And well, if you look at what was it? Christine. Stephen King's Christine. The end of the book.
You have to refresh my memory. It's been
when
since
Christine
I've read that.
is crushed,
right,
and destroyed.
Yeah.
The kid is leaving with his parents,
right,
and he has a heart attack in the back of the car. And he dies at the end of the book, too.
Okay.
Because they're linked.
They're linked, right. Okay, yeah, okay. That's not what happened. Yeah.
None of King's movies the endings were like the book.
Now, well, okay. I would say the caveat to that argument, because I agree with you on 95% of the books, absolutely. But I will say the caveat to that is this current remake of It, the ending was...
Yes.
Except for, and if you've read the book, you know what scene I'm talking about at the end of the book, where they're still kids and it's an orgy scene.
Yes.
Well, they took that out of there, which is completely understandable. Totally get why.
Right.
But I would say, because I loved the original TV show because it had my favorite dude in it,
Well, the only other thing they should have added was the spider and the turtle.
Yeah.
Because it explains way more than just...
Well, you know that there's this whole premise idea going on that the gunslinger, The Shining, Christine, Carrie, Firelight, there's a whole genre story concept that all of these things are linked to this undercurrent... the Man in Black thing.
Yeah, Stephen King admitted it.
Oh yeah.
All of those books are on the same timeline, because he even
The Stand is one of my favorites,
and that's where it all stems from. And it's
love that. Lloyd absolutely loves Stephen King, And he's tried to get me. We've been trying to read The Gunslinger, and I just can't get into it. And I want to really bad.
It's hard.
It is.
Because it's so nothing good. Like he normally writes.
No, and the movie was good on its own if you hadn't read the book. But now that I've read the first book and I'm halfway through the second one, it's kind of like, what?
I think the only movie that was 95% accurate by Stephen King was The Green Mile.
Beautiful film. And the fact that that's a short story.
It's a 6-book series.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're itty-bitty books.
Yeah. They're like 30 minutes for one of them, you know.
But the actor that played John Coffey was brilliant.
Oh my God, right?
And I'm not a huge Tom Hanks fan anymore, just because of some of the things he's come out and said. But I love his movies.
Oh, yeah.
And his portrayal of that guard was spot on.
God, right?
You know, Billy the Kid was perfect.
Well, okay, so that actor, and I can never keep his name in my head, but I have the biggest crush on that guy. And if he is in a movie, and it's not because I think he's cute, although he is, but he's one of those actors that when you watch him, you can't take your eyes off what he's doing.
Yeah.
Because he's so
charismatic.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Yes,
where you just
draws you into him.
You just stare because you just want to know how he's going to, and I just, and I can never remember what his flipping name is, but I love him.
Yeah.
And I love that there's some character or some actors that it does not matter what they're in. I will go watch them.
Yeah.
Oh, cannot think of what his name is. It made me crazy. But I absolutely adore him in movies. And I thought he did that character fantastic.
You know, talking about these different things and the book that's my
Sam Rockwell.
Child. Yes. My baby, my Purposeful Struggle book. I take from Narnia. Mm-hmm. I take from Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. I've taken from bits and pieces of Stephen King stuff, you know, just their writing style.
Sure.
And one of the main characters, Karen, I tell you exactly what she looks like. She's a 5'8" redhead with emerald green eyes, fair complexion.
I love that.
She's drop dead gorgeous.
Sure.
But she's level-headed.
Sure.
And she's very pragmatic in the things that she does.
Okay.
She doesn't do anything without a reason.
Yeah.
But she's also a hopeless dreamer.
Yeah.
She gets lost in her daydreams.
Sure. And
she forgets to do things.
Sure.
Which we've all been there.
Sure.
And then you have Raven, which is about 5'9", dark-haired, kind of bronze tanned complexion, thin, not overly muscular, but he's got that worn down, beaten persona because he's just given up.
Right. Gotcha.
Everything he's tried, he's failed, and he's just like,
I cannot wait to read this book because you and I have talked about this book.
You know, but developing the characters, I did a little bit in the first book. In the second part of it, it's going to be a thicker book because they're going to sit around a campfire and the party that is now with them, they're going to say, this is how I got here.
I love that.
And I did it intentionally to where you can see their journey and you're just like, man, I really love this guy because I see me. Or, man, this girl is phenomenal because I've dealt with that.
Sure.
Or even some of the other people that come and go through it. You know, like you've got this old guy named Samuel that points Raven in the right direction.
Sure.
And then the next morning, he's gone, and Raven's like, well, what the heck?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, he said go this direction.
Sure.
But true enough, the book is Christian fiction, but it's not overtly in your face with religion.
Sure, yeah.
You know, it partially explains how the fallen kingsmen
Mm-hmm.
became fallen kingsmen.
I love that.
And I even describe them a little bit, how they've got what used to look like gorgeous eagle wings that are now tatted and bat-like.
Mm-hmm.
But if you
that sounds really cool.
And if you look at them in a certain light, you can see a faint glimmer of a gold and silver of what they once were. And it's like, and you're just like, wait a second.
That could be really cool visually.
Yes. And if, and I would love to see this turned into a series, but
yeah,
chances are, I'd win the lottery first.
Right. Well, Kevin, we are about out of time, and I know you and I could sit and talk for 10 hours.
Probably.
Because we're geeks, and I'm here for it. But I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast and talking with books and movies with me.
Not a problem.
I really appreciate it. You guys, when his book comes out, you guys will be made aware of, and y'all will have to come and get it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
You're welcome.
All right, have a great
To
day.
whoever may need this nugget of encouragement, things will be all right. So quit your worrying.